Hello, friends. This is Professor amelko again. Thank you for tuning in. I have had some new subscribers lately. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you subscribing, and I hope you enjoy this content. I also want to give a shout out to my esteemed colleague and engineer, Master Mook. Check him out at Mookie's Tarot Zone. That is MOOKIES Tarot Zone on YouTube for all things tarot. You will like it. Today's presentation is a bit of a touchy subject. Certainly not as touchy as some of the other material I've covered lately, but I hope you enjoy this. Some of this is a little bit of review of where I've been before, but this is going to be a more encompassing and in-depth look at human sacrifice in the ancient world. I'm going to follow this up probably with a video about human sacrifice in the modern world as well, and you can compare them. So, as we have talked about before, the Canaanites. This is a bit of a survey of human sacrifice throughout major civilizations in history. We have to start with the Canaanites from the Bible, who worshipped Baal, god of fertility and storms. The Canaanites are from the region that is now Israel and Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, etc. Right on the Mediterranean, the entrance to the Mediterranean Sea from the Orient and the Middle East. I've said before that whoever controls this strip of land controls the world. In the ancient world, it was the Canaanites. In the Bible, God becomes furious because the Canaanites are sacrificing their children to a false god or to a false deity. This is indeed true. You can ask any hardcore anthropologist, religious studies scholar, historian. This is a fact. This actually happened. This is not made up. This is a historical fact. I believe that the Canaanites are still in control of the world today. They would sacrifice their firstborn child to a statue or a bronze idol of a bull, the bronze bull. They'd place the baby in the hands of the idol, light a fire underneath, and it would be sacrificed to this god, to this deity. It's a dark deity, and they were practitioners of a dark religion. You might even call it black magic in some cases. For more on the Canaanites, you can see my Cult of the Bull video as well. So we know that the Canaanites spread around the Mediterranean to Carthage, to the Iberian Peninsula. They mixed in with Iberian tribes. Particularly, I mentioned Carthage, which I believe is now in Tunisia in North Africa. These are the Phoenicians in Carthage. These are the descendants of the Canaanites who were the arch enemies of Rome. This goes way, way back into the ancient world. It's biblical and beyond. I believe that the Canaanites are still in control today. The Phoenicians are descendants of the Canaanites. They are the arbiters of ancient religion in North Africa and the arch enemy of the Romans. The Romans were, not the most friendly or understanding, I guess, of people. And then when they went to Carthage, they found this stuff going on. They were horrified by it. So we know that it is a fact that the Phoenicians and their predecessors, the Carthaginians, were engaged in this kind of practice. This is a temple of sacrifice in Carthage that has been unearthed. This is an archaeological site, which is now in... maybe somebody can help me out with this one. I believe this one is in Lebanon today. It could actually be in Tunisia, but I believe that this is in Lebanon. This is a real archaeological site. They have found the remains of many, many children here, further proving that the Carthaginians were practicing human sacrifice in an extreme form. Here's a map, so we get a little bit of an idea of where the Carthaginians settled. So we can see Italy in the middle. The Illyrians are to the east. These are the tribes of Eastern Europe, what was Yugoslavia, and now the 6 countries that was Yugoslavia at one point. The Gaelic tribes in modern-day France, southern France, and where the red is where the Carthaginians were. So North Africa, it looks like, in Libya, what's now Tunisia, Algeria as well, and also on the Spanish Iberian Peninsula. So this kind of religion was spread around the Mediterranean. I believe that it was absorbed also into Roman religion and other cults of the time around the same area. The Greeks, of course, also engaged in human sacrifice. They actually had a fighting season or war season, which was also the season of sacrifices, happened in the spring. I believe that it was the Spartans that would actually hunt down these lower level citizens known as the hoplites, and they would be hunted and killed, sacrificed during the sacrificial season, which we are in fact in now. The mountaintop in the Peloponnese region is the earliest known site where Zeus was worshipped. And even without the possible human sacrifice element, it was a place of slaughter. It was a place of human sacrifice, I believe, as a historian, professional historian. Tens of thousands of animals were killed there in the god's honor. Human presence at the site goes back more than 5,000 years. So that puts us at about 3000 BC. There's no sign yet that the cult is as old as that, but it's unclear why people would choose to settle on this summit, likely because it was high ground. Whoever has the high ground has the advantage. Zeus was the god of sky and thunder, and the leader of the classical Greek pantheon. When I do my presentation on Jesus, who was Jesus, we're going to see how the modern composite character of Jesus is also mixed with Zeus. Yah means Lord in Hebrew, and Zeus, Yazus, Jesus, Yazus, right? This is another prominent place in Greece, Mount Lycaon. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. This was also a site of human sacrifice in Greece. Every ancient civilization has practiced this in some form. This is a remnant of an altar to Zeus, also in Greece. Move on to the Romans. The Romans were not very secretive about sacrificial rites. These rites formed the basis of Roman religion, whether it was giving incense to fire to sacrifice to the gods, or animals. Elite peoples in Rome, people that were in the government, the ruling class, which you might call the bourgeois today, definitely engaged in these ritual practices. They were not as much of a secret. Slaves would be sacrificed. When Julius Caesar defeated the Gaelic king in what is now France, he was murdered before tens of thousands of people upon his return. This was a sacrifice in one form. There was also human hunting parties, or human, basically snuff parties that they would engage in. I believe that these kinds of parties and things are engaged in by elite peoples today. Another interesting theory that I have is that, we look at the year 0 as the birth of Christ. However, most religious studies scholar would tell you that Jesus was born in early April, about 4 years after the year 0. We'll talk about that in another presentation. I believe that the year 0 marks really the beginning of the Roman Empire and the beginning of the new age, on this planet, the new age of imperial rule on the planet. I believe that's what the year 0 marks. We know that many cults existed in the ancient world, many of them around sacrificial rites. They almost always have roots that come in the tradition of human sacrifice. Even Christianity, which started out as a human sacrifice religion, Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice on the cross, and God is sacrificing his only begotten son for the benefit of the world. So there is a sacrificial element there. The cross in and of itself is basically like the electric chair of the ancient world. Here's an image kind of depicting ancient Roman rites, man and beast being sacrificed on the flame. Flame was one of the preferred methods of sacrifice, because if you burn something to ash, the smoke rises, into the atmosphere, the stratosphere, and eventually to the sun, god of the sun. One of my favorites, very interesting, the Thuggee cult in India. This was a real cult. It was not that long ago. I think the Thuggees existed in the 19th century and earlier. It was not that long ago. If anybody's ever seen Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, my favorite, these are the Thuggees that are depicted in the Temple of Doom. They would sacrifice their victims to Kali. So their favorite method of sacrifice was strangulation. This way they could perform rites without the body losing any blood or any of its humors, so that Kali could feast upon 100% of the victim. The Thuggee cult is connected to some of the word magic that we have in English. Excuse me. If you're, a Thuggee, you're a thug. And if you're in a gang, you're from the Ganges. If you're in a gang, you smoke ganja from the Ganges. You're a thug in the Thuggee cult. A Baba or Baba G is a holy man. So your Baba G is, on the Ganges. You're in a gang, you're smoking ganja, and you're a thug. You're a Thuggee. This is a very, very interesting cult. There's a lot of information out there. You could just do a whole presentation on the Thuggees just on their own. Here's a depiction of a sacrifice to Kali. Two guys, holding down the victim, and the victim's being strangled. Here's an interesting picture. Here's Beyonce doing the death dance of Kali, and they use word magic again. It's supposed to say Kale, but it doesn't. It says Kali, and she's doing the death dance where she swings her arms outward like Kali. It's a thing. It's the dance of death. I just wanted to try to put in some kind of modern, image or connection, I suppose, because I believe that this stuff does go on in the modern world. So now we have the Aztecs. The Aztecs are one of the more well-known practitioners of sacrificial rites. I mean, they were just huge on it. It was huge. And again, I could do a whole presentation on just the Aztecs and their ritual sacrifice techniques. They were also, an advanced culture, maybe a descendant of the pre-Diluvian civilization, perhaps Atlantis, and who knows, maybe this civilization was sunken, and the different parties or people that knew the secrets of magic or secrets of, building monoliths were spread around the world. Perhaps this is the genesis of the Aztecs. They built many, many pyramids, and they would march victims, prisoners of war, criminals up the steps, and they would lay you down on an altar, make an incision in your sternum, reach in, take out your heart, put it in a red hot bowl, and then it would be turned to ash, and the smoke would rise up to the sun. This is a historical fact. Again, you can look this up. It's not hard to find. The Aztecs did this on a mass scale. They also, I could be wrong about this, but from what I understand, they were the progenitors of soccer, because what they would do is, they would take the head of a victim, throw it down the steps, it would reach the bottom, and then there would be a game played with the head, and whoever won this game scored the winning point would be sacrificed. So you're playing to win. So you're playing to to sacrifice. Like I said before, the Aztecs, this merits a whole presentation in and of itself. You know, just imagine being a Spanish conquistador and, you know, coming out of the jungle and seeing this, you know, megalithic city and all the stuff that was going on there. It would be quite terrifying. Here's a depiction of what their ancient capital would look like. I believe it's pronounced, and some people are gonna argue with me about this, but I think it's Tenochtitlan. Some people pronounce it Tenochtitlan. I believe it's Tenochtitlan. Okay, this was the site of their sacrificial practices, the main site in the ancient world. This is a depiction of what it would have looked like, and I believe that this is fairly accurate. I mean, these people were pyramid builders. Just like the people in ancient Egypt, or there's also over 200 pyramids in Sudan, where the Nubian tribes were settled and doing their thing in Africa. The skull towers are also a real thing as well. So the Aztecs would take the skulls of their victims, they would put them on a, I don't know, like a pole. They'd puncture holes in the sides of the skull, and they'd put it on a rack. They'd keep the skulls on a rack, or they would build towers or totem poles out of skulls. This has been written about in some sources. Ferdinand Cortez, also, what's the name? The person that wrote The Destruction of the Indies, Bartolome de las Casas. This is a historical fact. This is some of the stuff that they would do. The skull towers are real and terrifying. This is how many victims they had. This is also, for all intents and purposes, I believe a real image. I mean, I have no reason to believe that this is not a real image. This is indeed another historical fact. This is Tenochtitlan. In modern times, you can still go there today. There's many step pyramids there. They're monolithic, and like I said, you could do a whole presentation on just this. I mean, I believe that this is one of the civilizations that survived, after the deluge, and was perhaps seeded by the people, the ancient priests of Atlantis, or whatever came before the civilizations of, the ancient world. I think that they all hold some kind of truth and key coming out of those times. So we're all wondering this. I mean, why all of this bloodletting? This practice likely goes back to the earliest civilization, or even before. I mean, this has been going on. I believe since we began our relationship with fire. So when we discovered fire, the first ones were, of course, natural fires, and there must have been a point where if you couldn't find anything to, keep a fire going, or if you learn how to create one yourself, and there must have been a time where they said, hey, let's pay tribute to the fire, and put a person on there. I think it kind of makes sense. This stuff is as old as humankind itself, or civilization itself. In any case, the basis of most belief systems are sacrificial, whether it is a literal animal or human, or a symbolic or metaphysical sacrifice. I'm thinking of Buddhism, which has a metaphysical kind of sacrificial ideology. Also Hinduism, a rejection of the material world. You sacrifice basically your life and all pleasures to gain enlightenment. So there's metaphysical sacrifice as well as literal. If you look at the world religions and their histories, you're going to find some sacrificial element to them. My question is, were complex societies driven by this practice? I believe that they were. I believe that civilization as we know it was formed around human sacrifice and the phases of the moon and sun. Pretty interesting image here. There seems to be some depiction of a Native American type sacrifice, but there's also an element of Jesus here in a in a classical type style. Very interesting image. Society driven by this practice. Now, this is yet another image of Abraham sacrificing his son Isaac when God told him to do it. But the angel, I believe it's Gabriel, could be wrong, I believe it's Gabriel. Gabriel shows up a lot in the history of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and King Solomon's magic. So the Abrahamic religions, we know, have a sacrificial element to them, going way back. It's society driven by this practice. Now, I think so. I'm going to do human sacrifice in the modern world, and we're going to talk about different dates. We're going to talk about the respective lunar and solar calendars. We're going to talk about the pagan calendar and, some of these events that come in the form of, either warfare, mass shootings, Hollywood celebrities dying or being killed. I believe that human sacrifice is still practiced by the elite peoples of the world today, and I believe it has to do with the phases of the moon and certain rites performed on certain days of the year. We just passed the vernal equinox, so the beginning of spring, and we know that, from my perspective, the pedophile club that perpetrates a lot of these mass shootings and a lot of the human trafficking rings that I talked about in my previous video, they are back in power. They are in control of the United States, and these are the things that they do. We just saw, a mass shooting in, I think there was one in Georgia, there was one in Colorado, there was one in Virginia Beach. I think that there was another one recently as well, all clustered around the sacrificial season. So what does the moon say? If you pay attention to moon phases, most of this stuff will happen when the crest of the moon starts to appear on either side. So there'll be what's known as a new moon. In the occult, it's known as a black moon when there's no moon. And then the, bull horns will start to emerge. And it is on these days, the first, second, and third day after the black moon, that you will find that, each month there is some sort of event. And as you get closer or on the equinoxes and the solstices, you will see sacrificial rites going on particular dates, especially lined up with the moon. All civilizations are based around the phases of the moon and the cult of the bull, and this is symbolic of the bull horns. So what happens actually monthly? This happens every single month. You will see this crest, and then you will see a planet next to the crest. Okay, and that's the planet Venus. So this is actually the Islamic crest. The symbol of Venus is the 5-pointed star. Okay, and then there's the Islamic crest, it's the 5-pointed star, and the crest of the moon. Every month during this period after the black moon, you'll see Venus close to the bullhorns. And as it gets farther away from the bullhorns and the moon starts to be exposed more, it'll move farther and farther away. This happens every single month. You just have to pay attention to the sky. All right, so a little bit about the calendar year. Jewish, Muslim, Christian, and pagan calendars all revolve around the moon. They all do. They're all lunar calendars, especially the Jewish calendar. That one's pretty hardcore. The moon and the sun are the arbiters and progenitors of this practice. All societies are built around this practice. Even today, moon phases control, the ebb and flow of the tide, the menstrual cycles of women, and all things water on the planet. China, Vietnam, and many other Far Eastern civilizations all practice a lunar New Year as well. Very, very interesting stuff. So next time I will be doing sacrifice in the modern world. I know this is a little bit morbid, but it is what it is. I'm trying to bring you the best information that I can. I kept this one kind of simple. Any one of these civilizations would have merited a presentation, you know, in their own right. I tried to keep this one kind of simple, just to give you like an overview of what was happening in the ancient world. I'm going to try to get a little bit more in depth on sacrifice in the modern world as well. Please leave me a comment or a like. Thank you very, very much for subscribing. I really appreciate that. I'm going to keep content coming to you. If there's anything that people would like to see, any of my subscribers, please let me know. I'll try to cover it. We've had some excellent conversations recently. I want to keep that going. I really appreciate you listening to this, guys, and I will catch you next time. Be well.